From the outside looking in, Katherine Wintsch had it all. Senior vice president at a successful advertising agency, a great marriage, 2 young kids.
I had climbed to the top of a fairly tall mountain, in my career with this pickaxe of just climbing, very ambitious. And I got to the top of this mountain and I was like, this is the view?
This is the How She Moms podcast with Whitney Archibald. I'm a mother of 5 on a mission to help moms connect with your kids, manage your homes, and create your own unique version of motherhood. I curate ideas from different moms so you can pick and choose what works for you and your family. When Katherine Wintsch sent me her book, Slay Like a Mother, I thought, oh no, another book telling me how I can have it all. A high-powered career, kids, family, fulfilling hobbies, muscles, a nonprofit on the side. Why not toss in a marathon or 2? Then I opened the book, and I couldn't shut it. It turns out Katherine wasn't talking about slaying life. She was talking about slaying the dragons that get in the way of actually living and enjoying your life. Evil dragons like self-doubt, insecurity, and fear. Dragons that attempt to incinerate any flicker of joy before you even get a glimpse of it. The book is just fantastic, partly because it gives very tangible exercises you can do to slay your own dragons and create the life you want to live. It's really a hybrid between a book and a workbook. One of my favorite exercises is listing all the things in your life that deplete you and another list of what energizes you. Once you look at these lists, you can use them to design a life with more things that light your fire and less of what makes it fizzle. Today, Katherine's going to tell us how she did just that, how she got off the path of what she thought should make her happy and carved a new road to an entirely different destination, one she made up herself. She left her advertising career and founded her own company called the Mom Complex, which helps companies develop better products, services, and experiences for mothers. This episode is part of an ongoing series I'm building about how moms work, from managing our homes to caring for children to pursuing careers and building businesses. Every mom's career is a unique story with different choices, pathways, pivots, failures, and successes. More than a balancing or juggling act, these are stories of identifying and shifting priorities as our lives themselves shift and change through different stages, and as we learn and grow and get to know ourselves better. As I've been collecting these stories, I've been amazed not only at the sheer variety of options for specific careers, but also how these women weave work and family together in such different ways, creating unique and intricate fabrics, often wildly different than they imagined at the beginning, and usually way more interesting and beautiful. We're going to start our conversation with Katherine at the beginning, when she was a little girl imagining her own career.
So I definitely wanted to be a lawyer when I was a little girl. And I think it's because I used to watch the show Matlock with my parents. And I like the competitive nature of it. I like that he was very persuasive. I like that there was a winner and a loser. It was very compelling to me. And I think I was rather persuasive, as a child. And so I loved that sense of it. But then when I was in high school and we had to build like the homecoming float, and you had to come up with a theme and then you had to build it. And then it was a competition between, freshmen versus sophomore, etc. And I equated that to marketing, the marketing industry of like, you have to come up with an idea, you have to make it happen, and then you're putting it out in the world and either the product sells or it doesn't. And so I pretty quickly in high school realized that I wanted to go into like marketing and advertising. And at that time was filled with a tremendous amount of self-doubt. And I tried to mask that self-doubt or compensate for that self-doubt by overachieving. And so it was all of my perfectionist tendencies, came out. And so then it was like, I'm going to go to the best school. I'm going to get the best grades. I'm going to go to the best agency, in marketing and advertising. And it was pretty relentless, and exhausting. And then I achieved those goals and I spent 15 years at an advertising agency, became a senior vice president, and then realized that I wasn't happy. And so the only way I can describe it is that I had climbed to the top of a fairly tall mountain, in my career with this pickaxe of just climbing, very ambitious. And I got to the top of this mountain and I was like, this is the view? Like, wow. This is what I did this for? Like, all I do is work. I'm never home. I'm exhausted all the time. I feel out of control. And that's when I decided to get off of that mountain and become an entrepreneur and just be more in control of my life. But the short story of my career trajectory is that I did it for external accolades. And I collected titles and trophies like they were trading cards.
Yeah.
And a lot of people were proud of me, and it felt good temporarily on the outside for people to be impressed or proud, but it didn't do much for me on the inside.
Wow. It's amazing on many levels. First of all, it was hard work and that's an intense life. But to be able to get there and realize what you really wanted out of life, I feel like a lot of people go their whole life and don't take the time to figure that out.
Well, I'll share a sign and maybe it, resonates with somebody listening, but first of all, I went through many years of therapy to realize a lot of this, and I
Yeah.
had a lot of, external help in that department, and I love therapy and I can't recommend it enough. But after learning more about myself, what I noticed is that when someone would say to me like at a cocktail party, like, "Oh my gosh, Katherine, it's so amazing what you're doing, like with this campaign or that client, or you're a senior vice president." And on the outside, I was like, "Yeah," and I'm smiling and nodding, but inside, my soul was like, "It sucks." And so it started to feel like a double life where
Yeah.
people were impressed by the external trappings of success, titles and trophies, but it wasn't enough for me. And it was like my mouth was saying, "Yay, good, yes, I know, huh?" But my soul was like, "Is no good in here." Like, it's not, I shouldn't be living this way. I shouldn't be working this hard and feel still so empty and hollow.
Right. So if that was your former measure of success, which it's a lot of people's measure of success, what would you say has replaced it now? And what is your current measurement of success?
So my currency, I like to say, is
Yeah.
impact. And in my work office in Richmond, Virginia, I have it painted on the wall. It's like a mural and it says impact. And I want everybody to know that works with me, that works for my company, that that is what we are striving for. We're not trying to make $10 million. We're not trying to hire 100 people. We're not trying to work with clients that are jerks, like just to make money. That we want to make the lives of mothers easier. And if you are doing that, at the mom complex, then that is our definition of success. And what's interesting is that's not everyone's definition. There's plenty of people, that need those external, as I did for many years, big salary raises all the time, or promotions or titles. And this just isn't the place to be for someone that is really driven by that. So we try to be really clear about it. But yeah, and that means even if we have a bad month of like revenue, I'm still impacting women that work for me. I'm giving them work-life balance. I'm giving them coaching and advice, and so for me it's impact.
That's beautiful. So can you explain this company that you started for us?
Yeah, so the company is called the Mom Complex, and we are a consulting company, and we work with mostly Fortune 500 companies. So Walmart, Sam's Club, Johnson and Johnson, Chobani, Airbnb, and we help them come up with ideas for better products and services for mothers. So we might help Chobani come up with a new yogurt line for kids, and then moms are part of the innovation process. Like, how much sugar do you want to have? Do you want it to be in a tube? Do you want it to be in a cup? Do you want it to have a spoon? Do you want characters on the packaging? And is it a substitute for ice cream or is it healthy? And so really involving moms in the ideation and innovation process, which is not normally done, which is crazy. A lot of companies just develop products in a vacuum because they want to make money. But it's like, well, let's actually bring moms to the table and say, what do you want out of infant formula? What do you want out of the shopping experience at a retailer? And moms feel very valued, as they should. And then the companies really get, direct access to the people that they are trying to win over and wow. And it's important to me that the women and mothers that work here also have a life. Like we're not, it's not a grind. It never will be. We're not, I always say, like, as a CEO, it sounds so ironic, but growth is not our goal, impact and having a life is our goal. And it's a good job.
It occurred to me while you were talking, we give millennials and I don't know, whatever the next generation after that is, a bad name for being lazy or not hardworking and not wanting to put so many hours into work. But I think we have a lot to learn from them also, because a lot of what they are doing is just refusing to get into that rat race and demanding work-life balance.
Yeah, and they're also, I've hired a lot of millennials. They're also really good at blending the two worlds,
Mm.
where it's like, maybe on a Tuesday afternoon they're taking off to get their hair done, but they also don't mind on a Saturday morning banging out a couple emails. It's a lot more
Yeah.
fluid, as opposed it's I haven't seen it where it's like I'm only going to work 9 to 5 and then don't call me at night and I'm off on the weekend.
Yeah.
It's more like I need to have balance in general, and I'm going to take it from different pockets of time. And then also, I mean, just technology, and they're just,
Yeah.
it's perfectly fine for them to work on a presentation on their phone and, while they're waiting at the DMV. And so, it's not as though like away time, from the desk is like completely wasted time in terms of output. So I think they do a good job of kind of fitting work in to the pockets of their life, but also getting it done. And for me as a CEO and an employer, I don't care when you do your job. I just care that it gets done on time and that it's really good. And if you do it in 2 hours and sleep the rest of the day, like, good for you. Like, you win. I don't care, And so that's another thing is it's just not about like butts and seats or FaceTime. For me, it's about the quality of the product that they deliver.
Oh, I am just so glad there are people like you out there helping to change the culture of working life in this country, because I think it's the future and I think it's the only way we're going to make this work. So, oh, I love it.
Well, it really goes back to the goal of like growth not being our goal. So in other words,
Yeah.
like if I was, a $5 million company and insistent that in 2 years we become an $8 million company, then don't have that downtime, because I would be taking every minute that they had available and pushing them to the grind to go and get more money.
Yeah.
And so when growth isn't the goal, it's like we know how much money we need to make as a company. We know how to pace it, throughout the year, and we know how to bring on clients that aren't going to kill us. But that goes out the window when aggressive growth is your goal, because
Yeah.
there's no way I would be able to say, I don't care when you work as long as you do a good job. And if you work in 2 hours and take a nap, I wouldn't be able to say that if I was trying to double the size of the company. And so I think when you get caught in external trappings of success, how big does my company look to other people? How much money can I personally make? That can ruin the lives of the people that work with you. But I had to hear that role model. I was at a conference one time and I remember a female CEO saying, growth is not my goal. And I was like, oh,
Is
I
that
didn't
even
know that could be
allowed?
possible. Like, what is your secret? And so I had to hear that, probably from another woman and somebody that was successful and could have been bigger, but didn't have the desire. And that never crossed my mind. I was like, oh, that's pretty smart.
Oh, it's like she just gave you permission. This is my favorite thing. These moments when we realize, wait, there's another option that I never knew existed. Light bulb moments that illuminate a new way forward. Part of what makes these moments possible is taking the time to look at our lives from a bird's eye view. where am I headed? Where do I want to be headed? And where's my motivation coming from? Katherine says,
the difference between living your life from an external viewpoint as opposed to an internal one. It's like the external viewpoint says you have to go to college, you have to become, one of these five professions in order to be successful. But what does your internal compass say? What does your heart say? What does your soul say? And I just think that our soul is kind of on mute, and we're just paying attention to what the outside world finds as success. And like you said earlier, a lot of people never get to the point that they realize that that doesn't really make them happy, or that they can be happy.
well, and isn't it strange how even when you believe it and you know it, it's still scary to step off that path. It's still scary to be like, well, maybe it's okay that you're not getting good grades with your teenagers.
Yeah.
What I'm going through right now. Maybe that's
Yep.
okay.
Well, you need role model. If you're a teenager, you need to hear other teenagers say, I'm not going to college and I'm okay with that. Or people that didn't go to college and they turned out just fine. They're happy and fulfilled. And so I think it's all the more reason to have these conversations, is because people need to hear people like them or the place that they want to be say this stuff out loud. And we also have to recognize the society we live in. So my husband happens to be from Switzerland. And in Europe, they do a great job of apprenticeships. And so it's not a given that people are going to go to college. It's not this thing that's just ingrained in people. And they have so many schools for apprenticeship where it's like, no matter what you want to go into, a 4-year degree is often very expensive, creates a lot of debt, and then people end up going to a trade anyway. So why not help and foster, going into different trades and getting the training and not making people go in debt? And so there's just certain forces in our country that sway us to believe, but it's even like looking at other countries, not necessarily to go to school there, but to say, if it's popular in Europe, why can't I try it here and be successful?
Yeah, just what are the other options? And part of the limiting thing is because I'm very happy with the path I took. I, did well in school. I went to a great college. I learned a ton. I loved learning. And then I, had a career in journalism for a while, and then I stayed home with my children. I'm very happy with that path. So it's easy when you're happy with the way your path has gone to project that onto your children.
Yeah. But I think you're doing the right thing, asking them to do the exercise, what depletes you, what drains you, what, energizes you. And I think that, you're obviously a reader of, self-help. It's like, how can you share those exercises with the kids so that you're not the only one learning from them?
And the bonus is that's tapping into for me is the most joyous part of mothering is the discovery, like the wonder and the discovery of seeing these tiny people become grown people, like with their own ideas and passions. And I mean, there's nothing more exciting than just watching somebody unfold, and you get to see it from the beginning to not their end, hopefully, but your end. You get to see their whole story and know it intimately. And what a privilege and a gift. It's amazing.
Yeah, it's something. It's also a lot of pressure though.
It is. It is.
Another part of like my just like spiritual evolution is that's happened even since I wrote Slay Like a Mother, is that believe that we are here to grow and to learn lessons. And I think we grow through pain and difficulty. And, if I hadn't lived with 20 years of self-doubt, and if I hadn't felt like the people around me didn't love me as much as I wanted them to love me, then I would not have found this on my own. And if I hadn't gone through the pain of working 80 hours a week and feeling hollow and empty, then I wouldn't have become an entrepreneur and being able to, set my own schedule. And there's certainly far worse pain to go through. And I understand that, but I think we we grow through what we go through. And so I try to embrace now even the difficult times, when my children are going through difficult times of like, they're going to grow from this and nobody's life is perfect. And I think that's kind of what you're saying of like being the witness and seeing how they handle difficult, situations and how they're growing from it, even if they can't see it at the time.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so going back to your career, how did you come up with this concept for your business? And then how did you have the courage to be like, I'm doing this?
So I came up with the idea when I was on maternity leave with my second child. So I had a 2-year-old and an infant, and I was, off work for a couple months, and I was really overwhelmed, as you can remember. And, was either crying or drinking myself to sleep every night. And then when I was watching television commercials at the time that were targeting mothers, because I was home, during the day, it was like Kelly Ripa dancing in high heels and baking cupcakes. And I just felt like there was an enormous disconnect between the challenges that I was facing as a young mother and how my life was depicted as a mother in commercials.
Yes. Oh,
And
yes.
and so
Amen.
it just felt like, and I never really felt like it was done on purpose to
Yeah.
like hurt us or like,
No.
it was just like they must not know. Like the men who are running these companies don't know how hard it is to be a mother. So if I could create a company where I just go and tell them the truth about what we're going through, then maybe they would be more hopeful and maybe they would invite our opinion and maybe they would make better products and services, not just advertising, but a better, life for the people they were trying to make products for. So it was just born out of my own pain point, my own experience. And I'm not sure why there's not more companies that do exactly what I do. It seems like
Right?
they everywhere, but they
Yeah.
aren't for some reason. And then you asked like how I found the courage. I would not describe it as courage.
Okay.
I would describe it as I was brave or bold. I was very broken.
Mm.
And I was a pleasing perfectionist. And I was working in the advertising industry, which just will take every ounce of everything out of you and like still want more. There's not
Mhm.
really the opportunity to say no, it's always on. So for me, that industry, not I worked for an amazing company, but the industry was like me being an alcoholic and being in a bar. It
Mm.
was too much. It was too hard. I couldn't say no. It, like the gravitational force towards accolades, was too powerful for me. So I just felt like I needed to get out of that environment and that I needed to have the structure of not growing and not striving for more in order for me to be at peace, in
Mm.
order for me to not give every ounce of every hour I have away. And so it wasn't that I was, in my mind, I can see where it looks like that from the outside, but in my mind, I wasn't courageous to take this leap. I was broken and I was tired.
Mm.
And I didn't know if my company, would be successful on its own, but I was going to try it for a year. And if it didn't work, I certainly was employable. Like someone would have given me a job
Yeah.
somewhere.
Right, right.
It didn't
Right. So it wasn't
work.
as
And I just,
risky as it sounded.
no, it was like, I'm going to do it for a year. And, if it doesn't work, I'll go back and work for somebody else. But also, my parents were not on board in the beginning. My husband was not on board because what they saw was that I was successful within a successful industry. I had a great salary, I had insurance, and why would I give that up? And I also appeared happy because I just lied and wore a mask. And so for them, they were like, why would you risk this? But I had hidden from them how broken I was and how unhappy I was in my career, and that I just had to stomach that they didn't think it was a great idea, and I had to do it anyway. And now they think it's a great idea.
Yeah. Don't you wish you could just go back to that former self and just give her a big hug and tell her it would all work out?
Yeah, yeah, it was. So it's like when you've been in a mask for so long, then, you can only expect the people around you to not really understand or get it when you finally come clean and say something's not right, something's not working.
Of course, now that Katherine has written her book, Slay Like a Mother, she's created another side career she also never expected would be part of her journey. The book itself, plus speaking engagements where she teaches women to slay their own dragons of self-doubt like she slayed hers. And of course, she's teaching her own kids what she's learned.
The final chapter in Slay Like a Mother is called Raising Dragon Slayers. Part of it is, as a mother, as a parent, you have to go through some of the work yourself because you can't teach someone to be a dragon slayer and to slay their self-doubt if you haven't at least started, on that journey. Just like if you can't play basketball, you can't teach your children. Not that we have to do all of those things, but you have to have a handle on something before you can teach someone else. So that's why it's the last chapter. But one of the things I talk about in that chapter is that dragons of self-doubt thrive in silence and darkness and avoidance. And so the best gift you can give your children is to be able to give voice to the hard parts of their life. And an easy way to do that is over dinner or as they're going to bed, or it could be in the car, it doesn't matter where. But you ask your children to share with you their peak and their pit of the day. So it's typically better to do it towards the end of the day. So what was the highest part of their day and the lowest part of their day? And what this will teach your children is that everyone has a part of their day that sucks. Everyone, even their mother. And so, and that's normal and that's human, and they can expect that on Wednesday and they can expect that on Thursday. And also they start to be able to say in just short sentences their pain points out loud. And so you learn more about your kids this way, but also they shouldn't be raised in a household that never allows difficult, conversations to be had. So this is like a quick game that you can do to help them start slaying their dragon.
That is awesome. And the one that I am like chomping at the bit, I can't wait to have conversations with every one of my kids and my husband, is that list of what's energizing to you and what's draining. I am so excited to just, because I don't know that for them. I know it for me. That was an easy list for me to write, but I can't wait to find out what that is for every one of my kids. And I can't wait to have that conversation with them to just find out what they love about their life, what's energizing them, and what's not. Because I think I'm going to be surprised by some of the answers.
I think it's a shame that, when we're growing up, we study math and science and we even study the weather, but we don't study ourselves. And there's so many even grown-ups who have a hard time completing that list. Have never really thought about activities in my life that give me joy and energy and the activities in my life that drain me and deplete me. And that was an exercise that I did after reading one of Martha Beck's books called Finding Your Own North Star.
Okay.
And seeing it in your own handwriting, it was like, wow, I really do hate doing those things on the left, And then you can start to build structure around it of how can I spend less time, doing those activities and more time doing the things that energize me.
So, as we end this conversation, I challenge you to do the same. Make your own lists and then ask the rest of your family to make their lists. Zoom out until you get to that bird's eye view of your own meandering path and think about how you measure success and the impact you want to make. Maybe your biggest priority right now is making core memories with your children and helping them grow and develop. Maybe it's a time when you want to reconnect with one of your passions. Maybe this is a season of survival or growth or impact. Whatever it is, I wish you the best as you design your own beautiful fabric. Thank you so much for listening to the How She Moms podcast and for being part of this community. There are so many other ways for you to connect and hopefully also contribute. I share tips and ideas regularly on Instagram and Facebook at How She Moms. You can find past episodes and other resources at howshemoms.com. And you can always just email me directly at whitney@howshemoms.com. Special thanks to my own wonderful mom, Susan Singley, for recording my theme music. She played this song all the time when I was growing up, and to me, it's the soundtrack of motherhood.